I'm assisting Miss Alma to get into the Zoom. Give me 1 second, please. Miss Powell, is that you? Yes, it is. All right. Good evening and welcome to the FL Stanton GOTeam meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the GOTeam. Only members of the GOTeam may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. For members of the GOTeam, please identify yourself when you speak. I am pleased to call this meeting of the FL Stanton GOTeam to order at 5:08 p.m. Our first order of business is to call roll. The secretary will now take the roll.
One moment. Okay. I am trying to find the list. Hold on. That would be Jessica Tucker,
Present.
Ashley Herbert,
Present.
Dr. McIntyre. Okay, Judy Lamore,
Dr. McIntyre, you were muted.
Sorry, present. I couldn't get back to my button.
Judy Lamore.
Present.
Okay, we have Miss Coleman,
Present.
Tiffany Coleman. Okay,
Present.
and there is
Miss Alma Hall.
okay Miss Alma Hall.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
And Miss
and
Lumumba.
Miss Lumumba. Absent.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, this team will only be able to take official action if a quorum is present. Miss Powell, is there a quorum present?
5, 6. We only have 6 people available.
That's quorum. We only needed 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I can start to share my screen if you need to take us through our agenda.
yes, please. Thank you. Our first order of business, I didn't know I was muted. I apologize to you guys. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you and copies are in your email and on the website. Are there any changes to the agenda? May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
A second?
I second Tiffany Coleman.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye, Jessica Tucker.
Aye, Judy Lamore.
I, Tiffany Coleman.
Hi, Stephanie Powell.
Aye, Alma Hall.
Hi, Ashley Herbert.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. All right, the agenda has been motion seconded, and how many ayes do we have and nays, Miss Powell?
No nays, all ayes, 5.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we will review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes have been provided to you. Are there any corrections? If there are no corrections, may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
Motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes.
That's from Judy.
I second Tiffany Coleman.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye, Jessica Tucker.
Aye,
Aye,
Judy
Stephanie.
Lamore.
Aye, Alma Hall.
I
Ashley
Tiffany
Herbert.
Coleman. I Tiffany Coleman, sorry.
You got that, Miss Powell?
Yeah, did Miss Herbert say aye?
She did.
Okay.
All right. So we will now move to the discussion items of our agenda. We will review the budget meeting schedule. And I am turning this over to Dr. McIntyre.
So, good afternoon, everyone. We will now review and discuss our budget meeting schedule. And this is to ensure alignment with the district's budget timeline. We need to review and potentially adjust our current budget meeting schedule. This will ensure timely submission of all required materials. So this is our current timeline. We are here at step 3. We have already ranked our strategic priorities. We did that at the end of last semester in our December meeting. And then we have just completed our principals workshop for the FY26 budget. That was on January 15th. And we are now here at step 3, where we are supposed to have this allocation meeting where I share what our allocation is. That has to happen before January 31st. So we did modify our schedule last semester to include this January 22nd meeting so that we are in compliance and fall in line with this. And then you can see the steps that will move forward. So if you note that step 5, which will happen in early February, we need to make sure that we have a meeting scheduled during that time, which I believe we do. We have one for, I think, February 5th, maybe. And that will be our GOTeam feedback meeting. We will take action at that meeting. And then we have another meeting for step 8, and that's the GOTeam final budget approval meeting. And you will see that there are some steps in between there where after I get feedback and we make some decisions, I'll take it to the cluster superintendent and the staffing conferences. So that's their approval process. That's the district approval process as well. And then I'll bring back those final things for us to vote on. To be approved before March 15th. So action on our calendar, I just want to confirm that we indeed do have meetings for the feedback and approval meeting. So Ms. Tucker, can you take a look at our calendar and make sure that we have a meeting scheduled? Our next meeting is before February 14th.
Our next meeting is actually February 5th. And we also have a meeting before the March 14th. We have one on March 5th.
Got it. Okay, so I thought that we had meetings scheduled, so we are in compliance with that. All right, so I'll move forward now to the budget development. So I did share this presentation with you already so that you had an opportunity to take a look at kind of where we are and where our allocation was. Okay, so the norms for this is a meeting of the GOTeam. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. We will follow the agenda as noticed to the public and stay on task. We invite and welcome contributions of every member and listen to each other. And we will respect all ideas and assume good intentions. Can we continue to agree on these norms?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is the budget development process. It starts with our school strategic plan, which is the reason why we spent a couple of meetings last semester making sure that we finalized our strategic plan, because that is indeed the roadmap for what we will be doing now and in the future. And so that included data review, strategic plan review, budget parameters. So when we ranked our strategic priorities last meeting, that set our parameters for how we will move forward with discussing and creating a budget to meet those priorities. And so we are now here in the budget development process. So what this is, during this first meeting, I will provide an overview of the budget and position allocations, requests for turnaround and/or signature program funds, and review changes of the gifted service model, that does not apply for us. And then why this meeting provides an opportunity for the principal and GOTeam to ensure alignment on the school's key strategic priorities, gain a deeper understanding of the budget and position allocations, discuss the proposed request for signature program funds, and provide input to drive the development of the draft budget. And this happens between January 16th and the 31st. So this is the role of both the principal and the GOTeam. My role is to design the budget and propose operational changes that can raise student achievement, formulate strategies, and implement and manage them at the school level, focus on the day-to-day operations, serve as the expert on the school, hire quality instructional and support personnel, and collaborate with the GOTeam. The GOTeam's role is to focus on the big picture, positions and resources, not people. And I do want to reiterate that we are going to be focused on positions and resources and not people. Ensure that the budget is aligned to the school's mission and vision, and that resources are allocated to support key strategic priorities, and collaborate with the principal to use on the use of school level flexibility for position allocations, turnaround initiatives, and signature programs. So this is our strategic plan that we discussed and voted on last semester. So we did make some changes to our school strategic priorities and the strategies, and this is where we've landed. We also made changes to our mission and vision to make sure that they incorporated STEM. So our priority ranking, we ranked all of the priorities from 1 to 9, and we ranked them in order of priority for us as a team. And so this was our ranking, and this is what we will be using to then make some recommendations and have some discussion around next steps. So I'll give you a moment to read those, to familiarize yourself again with those. Let me know if you're ready for me to move on. All right, so based on those priorities, created a rationale for each of them. So this is why this is a priority, why this is important. So for each priority, there's a rationale. So as we talked about mastery of core content areas, this is to make sure that we are having opportunities for achievement and remediation. So we want to be able to address the gaps as well as create opportunities for more achievement. We talked about implementing a strategic writing initiative because this continued to be a need for our students. We noted this in our ELA and reading component of the need to focus on writing based on our data. We also talked about the next priority was to increase staff capacity to be able to provide that high quality and rigorous instruction. And so we want to ensure that the staff members are supported and they have the resources as well as the time and professional learning to be able to support that. We talked about building a system of resources to support STEM. And so we're going to if we're going to maintain our STEM certification and seek state STEAM certification, then we needed to put that as a priority. We talked about building systems to be able to identify and determine the needs of students as they progress towards proficiency. And so we want to make sure that we have the time and the resources to be able to collect and analyze the data to then be able to make the right instructional decisions for our students. We talked about sustaining a culture conducive for students' social, emotional, and learning needs. And we're looking at research that shows that focusing on these things leads to not just academic success, but improved attendance, engagement, and then just overall school functioning. So we were looking at the whole child and not just the academic needs. We then had another priority around STEM, and that was implementing a STEM program model, and for the same rationale around maintaining our certification and what that does to benefit our students and having a focus. Creating opportunities for staff to volunteer to leadership roles based on strengths and interests. And this was an opportunity to engage the adults in the building, that if we are maximizing them and working through their strengths, that will encourage engagement and then commitment. And the last was to engage and inform community, and that was to ensure that families and communities were kept current and informed with information in a timely manner. So our budget allocation. So this is the executive summary. So we do have a proposed budget of $5,080,694. We are projected to have an increase in student population to go from 165 kids or 166 kids to 214 students, which is an increase of 49 students from FY25. And I'll show you a little bit more information about that. So I want to tell you what we're looking at here. So on this allocations tab, this is the money that was earned per pupil for this year. The first column is FY26. Well, I mean, that's what it'll be for next year. The second column is FY25. So that's what we were working with this school year. And then the last column is the change or the difference between the two. So something that I want you to note is that we have more money that's being allocated, 5 million compared to the 4.7 million from last year. Note though that there is an increase in students of 49, but the net for the amount of total earned is only $4,700. So I want you to see and notice that. That's going to be important in just a minute. What also changed this year was the funding model that was used, which was how much per pupil we earn. So the formula has changed in how we earn money. And so if you'll look, the per pupil This year, that for FY 26 is $23,742, while the per pupil last year was $28,532. So our per pupil earning is less this year. So we have more money, but we have more money because we had more students, but we're not earning more money per student or even the same money per student anymore. So that is one important thing to note. The way the money is distributed will look different, and I'm going to show you that in the next slide. But I do want you to notice and recognize this first. Now, in how we are allocated, so if you look, the base per pupil for our allocation, and it's the same trend with the first column is FY 26, the second column is FY 25, and the last column is the difference between the two. The base per pupil is more, but the way we were funded to be able to earn money for other things is what has changed. One thing that changed for that base per pupil is before we did not necessarily earn money for fourth and fifth grade. This year, for FY 26 moving forward, we will actually earn money for all of the grade levels in elementary. So K through fifth grade, we earn money. One difference is let's look at the poverty line, for example. The poverty line, the weight on the poverty is different. So although we have more students in the count for poverty, because we're at 0.35 instead of 0.47, it's actually, we've earned a little less money per pupil. So those are some of the nuances that we have in our budget. Are you ready for me to move on? Okay. I'm seeing some head nods. Okay, here are some additional earnings. So if you will notice, one thing that pops out right away is that in the past, we have earned signature funds. We will not earn signature funds this year. So across the district this year, as our superintendent has been very vocal about, in saying, as we look at programs and money, we want to be able to see the impact. And so across the board of the district, across the board, we have not necessarily been able to say we've received this impact because of these funds or this programming, signature programming being one of those. So we're not doing away with signature programming. We're just doing something different in the way that is funded. So what we have the opportunity to do this year is to request signature funds. So that's something that we'll talk about a little bit more in the discussion, is that instead of just earning a certain dollar amount, we will now be able to request a dollar amount based on the programming that we have for our school. So we'll keep that in mind, because STEM is two of our priorities, actually. So that will be an opportunity for us to be able to request money to be able to support the priorities specifically for Stanton, as opposed to being a part of it across the board for all schools.
Dr. McIntyre,
Yes, ma'am.
so have they released what the criteria is for us to request those funds? Like, do we have to have a certain percentage in, pass rates or things of that nature? Like, have they let us know how they're going to do that?
So our main criteria is, does it support your strategic priorities? That's the number one thing. And so we've done that. We've named it in our strategic priorities. Before this was even released, our priorities were already set. So that's one piece of the criteria. The other piece of the criteria is, do you have a rationale for why, or how you're going to use those funds? And so we have, like I said, we have that strategic piece, but you'll see when I get to that slide that where we'll be providing the rationale and what we'll have a discuss. We can talk about what kind of rationale we want to provide there. Other than that, that's all we've been told. And so there will be a review that will happen at the district level, at the central office level, across the board, looking at all schools. So I don't know what that pot of money signature programs looks like that they'll be pulling from. I just know that what we were told is that we can make a request for pieces of that pot. Does that make sense, Ms. Tucker?
Yes.
All right, so I'll keep moving. So when I opened the budget, this is what I saw. So we were automatically at red from the jump. Now you may say, how is it that we can open a budget and we can already be in a deficit? It is because this budget is based on our current staffing model. This does not include any supplies, resources, anything like that. This is just strictly based on our current school staffing model. We are in the red. So if you will see that the enrollment by grade level, like I said, we've increased by 49 students. So our grade level enrollment has increased in every grade than what the projections were from last year. So we are anticipating more students. We currently have a staffing model to support the number of students that we have, yet we are in a deficit. So automatically that means we're going to have to make some what?
Some cuts.
Some cuts.
I have a question to that too.
Yes.
So I know we are projecting this 214 students, right? Okay.
Yes.
August gets here and it's not 214. We still have to live by the per pupil budget, right? So that means our budget would decrease if we don't get the 214.
So what happens is this is the budget that we start with because it is based on projections. In the past, we have done a 15-day count, and that 15-day count then says you either have more students than what you were projected or less students. There's a holdback piece that all schools have. And so in that, if you have more students than what was projected, you get a piece or all of that holdback. If you have less students, you then may lose some funding. Now, I don't know if we will continue to go off of that 15-day count or if we're going to do off the FTE. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do moving forward, but that's been what we did in the past. Also, if we get more money, that's why, when we do our count is our leveling count. If you have more students than were projected, you get more staff. Or if you have less students than were projected, you lose staff. It's a tie to that too. So I want to show you, we have some tabs and I want to show you how we're going to read those tabs. So this is a summary and I'm going to go through positions. Like I said, in the norms, we're focused on positions and resources and not people, okay? So this is how we currently earn money, which are positions that are allocated by the districts or departments, and we don't have any flexibility in that. So if it's in that earn column, we can't do anything about it. That's what we have. Okay. And then there's a funded column. The funded is the district's recommended staffing for positions. And we do have flexibility with that, but that's where the district funds. So essentially the district says, this is how many we think you need based on your projections. Staffed column. This is where we are currently staffed for the school. So regardless of what was earned or funded, this is what we have. The difference is the difference between what was recommended in that funded column versus the staffed column. Okay. And then we have a comment section if anything has, we provide comments. So I'll add to these comments as well, as we make decisions and have conversations. Okay. So that's how I want us to read it moving forward. So now we'll start. These are the teachers. This is both general ed teachers, core content and extended core, as well as EIP teachers. So I want us to take a look at all the columns. Earned, you see we don't earn any from the district. So the district doesn't tell us you have to have this, that, or the other. Funded, this is what they're telling us should be, or their recommendation for funding. I'm not gonna say should be, their recommendation for how we should staff. The column on the next to it is how we currently have it staffed. And then there's the difference. Any questions?
Don't we currently have an art teacher half the time? Or am I looking at that cross-eyed?
We do have an art teacher, but that art teacher is hourly. They are not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
All right. Any other questions? I'll keep moving. This is, so you'll notice that now on this slide, we do have earned positions. That is because it is special education. So in our Department of Exceptional Children or Special Education, based on our number of students and their current needs based on their EIP, that department staffs schools. And so that is why it is earned. And then it's funded based on that earning and staffed based on that earning. Okay. Can I keep moving? Okay. All right. This is our, where we are at paraprofessionals and school administration.
So what happens exactly when we're under what we're supposed to have staffed? Or what they recommend, I guess, more staff?
Nothing happens. We're just it's a decision that was based. So last year when we had this budget conversation, that was where we landed with approving for staffing to meet the needs for this current school year.
Okay.
There's not necessarily a right or wrong. Okay. Can I keep moving?
Yes, I'm done. I'm having one.
Okay, no problem. And then this is school support. I will say that there are some places where it will say funded and there might not be anything there in staffed, or staffed might be lower, but we may have other positions that are accounting for that difference. And I want to give you an example of that. Well, let me go to the end and then I'll give you an example of that.
I was just about to ask that, Dr. McIntyre.
No problem. Okay, so I'm going to go back a couple of slides and I want to show you what I mean. Okay. All right, so you see where we have fourth grade funded 2, staffed 1, fifth grade funded 2, staffed 1. We actually have 2 fourth grade teachers and 2 fifth grade teachers, right? But if you look down at EIP, the EIP staffing is how we cover for that. Because we have classes that are self-contained EIP, so we utilize the EIP teacher to cover that.
What is EIP again? I'm sorry, I missed that.
The intervention program.
Intervention program, you said?
Mhm.
Okay.
So essentially, that's additional support in reading and math. And students are identified based on a criteria of MAP scores, GMAS, and grades.
And
Okay, so
if-
that's an example of that.
Perfect. So if I'm understanding correctly, Dr. McIntyre, in that circumstance, because we have funding for an additional fourth and fifth grade teacher, but we're utilizing the EIP funding for those fourth and fifth grade teachers, that makes up for certain places where we have staffed something that isn't necessarily funded.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure I'm understanding the way this is laid
Yes.
out. Thank you.
So I want to show you exactly that. So for example, with that, for example, paraprofessional, you see where paraprofessional, we have no funding and we've staffed 6. So what we did was essentially we've used other funds to be able to accommodate a need that we felt like we had, and we utilized another funding source to then contribute to that. And we're able to do that as a school district because we're a charter district. And with that charter, it says that we can take money that comes from various pots and put them in one pot to then be able to allocate them and use them how we need. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go to the non-staffing tab. We're going to read that much the same way as we read the staffing tab. So the REC is recommended. This is the district's recommended amount. And then the allocation column this shows how much money has actually been allocated towards a line. And then the difference, this shows, what's the difference between the two. And then we have a place to be able to put any notes. Okay. All right. So I want you to see what we have, what's being recommended. But I want you to notice something, that we only have an allocation under district funded field trips. We don't have an allocation anywhere else. And that's because we don't have any money to put anything anywhere else. That potentially is a problem, because right now that means we have no money for materials and supplies. So we don't have any money for paper. We don't have any money for pencils, nothing. So I just want to note that. The district funded field trips is what the district actually gives. Okay.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, but it said, okay, so the reserve, right? What does
That's the reserve I was talking about that we don't touch, that we can't
we
touch.
don't got it? Okay.
Okay, so this is the non-staffing tab, continued. So now we have some academic stipends. These stipends, we do not necessarily have a choice about. And this is the reason why I say is because this is for some of those teacher leadership positions that are across the board in elementary, middle, and high schools. And so those academic stipends are like grade level chairs and uh, our new teacher mentors, that falls into that academic stipends. Teacher subs, that is a recommended and allocated amount. So that is something that we get from the district. What we were told is that we can increase this amount if we would like to for substitutes, but we cannot decrease this amount. So this amount has to be in place. This is the line that when we have teacher absences, so not FMLA, but regular teacher sickness and personal leave, it comes out of this pot. So when we are saying, please don't be absent, is because this all the money that we have if you absent. So once that goes away, then we've got to take money from somewhere else to be able to cover the substitutes.
So will we have permanent subs in the fiscal year 26 like we did this year?
Great question. So no, ma'am, that we will no longer have district funded permanent subs. So for the past few years, the district has paid for them because we were coming out of COVID and we were having a hard time getting subs to come in person. Now that is an option. It is one of the positions that we can staff, but it comes out of our budget and not the district. All right, we good? I'm sorry, I didn't ask first. Okay, so this is what I was talking about the signature and turnaround fund process. So we are doing a ZBB process, which is zero-based budgeting. Essentially, that's what you saw, signature programs, $0. So we would request to get funds to be able to support our signature programming. So you see the second bullet says it's a budgeting process that allocates funding based on program efficiency and necessity rather than budget history. So we don't get it just because we've been getting it before. And then the process is that principals will develop proposed requests for personnel and non-personnel needs for signature and turnaround programs. We'll share those with the GOTeam and get feedback. And then after discussing it we will submit that request. So after this discussion today, I'll be submitting that request. And we will know by the time we come back for our February 5th meeting, whether or not the district has approved us earning or being able to be given those funds that we were requesting in signature. All right, so this is our current, you see where it's $0. Now, I am proposing that we request all of our things to support our signature programming out of this fund as opposed to the general fund. Knowing that so that the signature piece is not taking up our general funds that we need just for regular school programming, knowing that we already have a $600,000 deficit.
Question.
Starting off. So my proposal is to request our signature programming coach, which we currently had, if you remember, we currently had staffed. That was staffed at the 200-day program coach. So requesting that would be $149,395. also proposing that we request a STEM teacher, which we have not had. So in order to really implement a STEM program model, it would mean that that our STEM coach should not be teaching the STEM classes. So in order to have a STEM teacher, as well as to put in this specials rotation that also provides some additional ways in which we can support planning time for our teachers, which supports the other priority that we had around making sure that our teachers were able to provide high quality, rigorous instruction and to make sure that they're able to utilize and analyze data. So give them the time to be able to do that. So we're proposing a STEM lab teacher and the coach to come out of here. Also, we're proposing, you'll see the amounts down there for the STEM dues and fees. So right now, our Cognia dues are $1,200 a year. And so we're proposing that to come out of this budget. And we're also proposing a $5,000 stipend for our teachers to be able to come together at times that are off calendar to be able to write the STEM curriculum. Hopefully, that would not be an annual thing, but because of where we are right now in our PBL implementation and starting to write units for our STEAM to request our STEAM certification, we would need to be able to have staff to actually create that. What is not included in here are the signature programming supplies and resources. That would potentially be another $5,000, which leaving up for discussion as well. So you'll see I've already, my proposed request is one signature programming coach, one STEM lab teacher, $1,200 for the dues and fees, $5,000 for the teacher stipends, and potentially another $5,000 for programming supplies and resources. And we would have to name out what those resources and supplies would be. Any questions on that? Okay. So this is the rationale for those signature program requests, which is what I just named, maintaining that STEM certification. It addresses two priorities. And then the third priority is increasing that mastery of core content areas. And so that's those other pieces around the curriculum and the resources. And I guess based on what I just said, I can add another priority, which was about the teacher being able to provide rigorous instruction.
So question, do you know if, I mean, we're providing the rationale and what we feel like we need for our school. Will the fact that we have low percentages of pass rates, even though we're moving in a good direction, will that play a part in it?
So I don't know, to be honest, but what I can say is, if anything, I would make the case on the rationale that we are making some significant improvements because we've been focused on this. So since we've obtained STEM certification, our pass rates, our proficiency has increased since we've obtained certification. So while they've been low, they've been increasing. Make sense? Okay, so the turnaround earnings, right now we don't qualify for this because we're no longer on any state turnaround list. So to my knowledge, we don't necessarily qualify for this because we haven't been designated as a turnaround school. We are no longer designated as a turnaround school. Where we are proud of that, it does mean that we don't have access to certain funds anymore. All right, so hold on a minute. Okay, yeah. All right, so what's next, like I said, is that we'll have another meeting in February. Um, we'll have the cluster superintendent review after that meeting, after that GOTeam, after the GOTeam votes. We'll have our HR staffing conferences, and then I'll come back to the GOTeam in March with the results of those two meetings after we've taken our vote of the draft budget. So I want us to have some conversation today about any questions that you have. I want to talk a little bit about like our current staffing and then I'll come back to you, like I said, in the February meeting with some suggestions based on that. So I want to take us back here. So it's my suggestion or recommendation that we maintain the recommended funding model of having two teachers at every grade level. And continue to use the EIP to be able to support that. So I don't necessarily think it's necessary to change this model to put two teachers and then include the EIP funding, because that may pull money from somewhere else. So I'm proposing that we continue to use this same model around general education, being able to make sure that our classrooms, our core content classrooms, are staffed. And any questions, comments, feedback about that?
I have a
Do we
question.
know? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Coleman.
Do we know for sure that we're going to have those same self-contained classes for next year, where you're currently using your EIP teachers, or you have those same class setups to continue with this model?
Yes, ma'am. So we have current students that are identified EIP now. Those students that are identified as EIP don't change unless they test out. And so the trajectory, trajectory is not the trend has been that we have similar numbers in each grade level every year. So in looking at those trends, that's the rationale for keeping the model. Now, here's the thing, is that the EIP teachers that we have, we get a chance to use them however we want. So right now on the budget, it's fourth and fifth grade as far as the staffing, but we could very well have EIP teachers that we put in second grade or in first grade. It's just about having the teachers to be able to move wherever we need them to be.
Exactly. You need that flexibility. So the way it is right now is perfect because you can flex it wherever you need it, whenever.
Understood. Thank you.
Mhm.
So when I know we looked at the other slide, I saw where we had staffing for like the coaches and will we still have staffing for specialists? Is that under something different? Is it?
Okay, let's keep moving. Thank you. Taking us to the next place. Okay, so I'll come back to that then. I'll go where you were. Okay, here. All right, so hold on, I'm trying to find it. Here we go. So right now, the current model that we have for coaches is that we have two instructional coaches, and then we have one readers as leaders coach. For flexibility purposes, because we earn that readers as leaders coach, I asked already for us to have some flexibility around that, so that if we had a conversation and we decided to do something different, we would have the flexibility. So what I asked for is take that money off of Readers as Leaders and just put it in the pot so that we could do whatever we want with it. That was approved. That's the note that you see there. Okay, so with that being said, we currently have a model where we have 2 literacy coaches, 1 math coach and 1 STEM coach. If we move the STEM coach to the signature programming bucket, that frees up some money for us, because it's very possible that we'll need, like, what, just to maintain where we are, we're already $600,000. So the main piece is making sure we have the teachers that we need. It is my suggestion around coaches that we have 1 coach per content, or per the major content areas. So we have 1 literacy coach, 1 math coach, and then 1 coach to address STEM, and inclusive in that STEM is the science and social studies. So that covers us for reading and all of literacy, all of math, science and social studies. So that takes us from 4 coaches to 3 coaches. Any comments or questions about that?
And will we be moving anything around for specialists? So like we currently have a math specialist. So is that under something else? Are we using it a different way, or?
No, so the specialists are supporting EIP as well. So we have an opportunity to utilize, so I think we need to keep the specialist role. My question around the specialist is, should we think about having a specialist that can support both reading and math? So even though they might be labeled math specialists, there's an opportunity potentially to be able to support both. But the other thing is that we can also support EIP. So right now, the math specialist is really helping to support our EIP and our most struggling students. I will say that the district's focus moving forward is literacy. So any support that the math specialist can provide for literacy is great, but I don't want us to forget about math. I feel like we have a lot of supports going on around literacy. I feel like it's important for us to keep math support, as well as to support STEM, which is another one of our priorities. So yeah, I'm not proposing that we do anything different as far as funding the specialist position, but we may think about how the specialist might be able to support either literacy or STEM in some different ways. Any thoughts about that?
My personal experience is that your math coach should remain very exclusive, as is the literacy coach. If you're going to flex that other signature person, then they should flex between literacy and STEM. Math should be secure. No interruptions in that. That's a major subject area. And we want to make sure that when teachers get instruction in that and coaches are doing demonstration lessons in that, that is pure, should not be touched at all. Now, you're going to have literacy in all areas, no matter what. So that specialist can go through literacy and STEM. Fine. The math, and I don't know who your people are, which also plays a part in this. If you have someone who is very, very good in math, and that person can flex into the math coach as well, maybe. But I'd like to see that math coach be pure. No interruption, no crossing. If you know
That's
what
what
I
we're
mean.
proposing. So that's 2 different positions. We do have a math specialist and a math coach. So I'm proposing keeping both of those and the flexibility be around the specialist and not the coach. So exactly what you're saying. Any other questions around that? Especially the reduction around the one instructional coach. Okay. I am also proposing. Okay, so we land here with, this is a major area around our paraprofessionals. So as you see, we have funding for 2 kindergarten paraprofessionals, and that's because that will be supporting 2 kindergarten classrooms. But then the other classrooms outside of kindergarten, there's no recommendation for funding for paraprofessionals. However, we have 6 that are staffed. So I am proposing a reduction in the number of paraprofessionals to reduce by at least 3 positions.
Will that mean that they'll be kind of shared between grade levels and teachers and things of that nature? Because right now, we kind of got one everywhere and on every grade level. So I'm just curious about the model.
Yeah, it would be about shared responsibility to support multiple grade levels, and we would have to identify what those grade levels would be because they would not be every grade level. So if we're talking about 3 paraprofessionals, we're still talking about those 2 that are assigned to kindergarten. So we may have to think about having 1 paraprofessional in kindergarten that supports both classes, having 1 paraprofessional that may support, first and second grade or first, second, and third grade, and then 1 paraprofessional that services either fourth and fifth or third, fourth, and fifth. So it would be a shared like that if we're talking about 3.
Is that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
And it just sounds like an exorbitant amount of work on 3 paraprofessionals. Would they be effective being spread so thin?
So that's an option. Like they don't necessarily have to support across grade levels. Like I said, I feel like that's a needs assessment that needs to be done, that we would need to see what grade levels maybe need the most support. We could find that we don't need any support on 4th grade. And so that pair is only supporting 2 grade levels. Or may only support 1 grade level because they have, heavy, a heavier need. And it's possible that role could shift. Like first semester, we may see some needs in one place, and second semester, we may see needs in another place. I think the real thing to think about is we are talking about additional support for teachers. Whereas right now the need is, do we have a teacher? And so that puts on a greater responsibility for us to make sure that our teachers are high quality and that the coaching support for professional development and planning is solid to be able to support those teachers to be able to function in a classroom alone. There have been some places in which we have enabled teachers to become dependent on additional paraprofessional support. And I'm not saying that we don't have those needs, because we do have needs. And the way it's been staffed before was what we needed and also what we had money for. And so now we are at a place where we do not have the money, but we're trying to figure out how do we support the needs with what we have. So how do we staff it in the best way that we can to be able to support our needs?
That was my question. I was curious if we would lose more teachers if they had less support. But I understand where you're coming from. To get stronger teachers definitely be the priority. So understood.
I'm just curious as to whether these paras are coming out of general ed and where are paras for those special ed classes? Do they have their own paras and their own budget?
Yeah. So the special ed paras are not funded out of the school budget. They are funded out of the special ed budget. Now we do hire for those paras, but they're not funded by us. Good question.
It may also depend on class size.
That's what I say. And which how many kids are that have needs in those classes? So, like for example, we have great needs in first grade right now that need additional support. We have so we have special ed paras that are supporting. We have regular instructional paras that are supporting because we literally have to have right now 2 adults in the classroom at all times. And so there's a great need there. Whereas in third grade, we don't have that same need. And so we have a para that's supporting, 2 classes right now. Would kind of say like a para and a half that's supporting third grade because that looks different. We have one para that's supporting fourth grade. We have one para that's supporting fifth grade. So it just really
Dr. McIntyre. So if I'm coded right now as a turnaround specialist, will I be coded differently as EIP for next year?
so I right now I am not sure what that will look like. Right now we are the I can only talk right now about these are the positions that we have and what we'll do in whether about keeping those positions and funding for those positions.
Understandable.
So less about the people, more about the position. And then based on the position, we'll figure out where people need to be. Okay, so
I have one more question. I'm sorry. If we cut the paras down to 3, does that allow for one more teacher in the budget, 2 more teachers in the budget?
it allows for the current teachers we have in the budget.
Heard, understood. Say no more. Say less.
I'm trying to keep the current teachers.
I got you. Understood.
Yeah, I also want to say, so another thing so I also want you to see, we had in these instructional coaches. So you see how there's an instructional coach 211 day and an instructional coach 202 day. So 211 puts an additional few days on pre-planning and post-planning. So that gives those coaches a little bit more time to plan. The 202 gives them a little less time to prepare and close out, but it still gives them more time than the teachers. I'm actually proposing moving those coaches from 211 to 202 just to save roughly about, see how much they were. I thought I wrote down the amount. It saves, I want to say about $7,000 or $8,000 just in the change of days. So we're talking a few $1,000 per person to give us some money. So what I'm also trying to get to is we need some money for materials and supplies. I feel like we need to have at least between $7,000 and $10,000 that we can spread across for materials and supplies. So if I can get STEM materials and supplies out of the signature programming, which is why I want to put $5,000 there, then if we can get another $5,000 to $7,000 in our general budget for supplies, then together that's $12,000. So I'm trying to split that money as well, but we've got to adjust some positions to even be able to give us a shot with being able to have money outside of person. Because right now, remember what we saw, this is only personnel and we're $600,000 in the red without paying for anything else. And roughly, teachers cost on average about $128,000. That's the average teacher salary plus their benefits. So we're averaging $128,000 per teacher. It eats that $5 million budget very quickly. And the way by reducing the coach's days and moving the signature program coach out of the budget, and reducing the paras, that gives us money to be able to keep all of our teachers and to be able to have a little bit of money for materials and supplies. I will say, the next, I think it's supposed to be the next meeting, and Miss Tullis, are you still on? I do have a question.
Yep, I'm here.
All right, so the scenarios, is that what I'll present in February?
So yeah, so in February, when you guys come back for your budget feedback meeting, what you will present is your actual, because right now you have the staffing column on your summary tab and all of the tabs, right? The portion for how you think the money should be spent, that has not been updated. So for instance, with the staffing tab, you'll come back in February for your feedback, and that will actually be updated to reflect your proposal. And so the same thing for non-staffing and I can't think of all the tab stuff, but basically everything will be updated to reflect your proposal. You will have whatever comments that you're proposing be dropped in to account for the difference between what the district has suggested or recommended for funding and how you've actually staffed, or when it comes to the non-staffing tab, what the district has recommended and what you are allocating and proposing. So all of that'll be in here. You will walk the GOTeam through that, discuss your proposal, discuss the rationale, get feedback on kind of the alignment between you and the team. And then when it comes to those trade-offs when it comes to the trade-offs in situations where that should be for situations where you are kind of maybe still like working through various options, right? So I'm not sure, let's say you either, let's say you work through everything and you're like, there's still, I don't know, $100,000 that you might need to cut, or maybe $100,000 that you got and that you weren't expecting, right? Then that's where those trade-offs come into play. This is kind of new, something maybe that has not been previously discussed with the team. And so then, that's where you would go into providing those options.
Okay.
The other thing is, I think you all's feedback meeting is scheduled for February 5th. And as I understand it, the kind of final funds that you're going to get for a turnaround and signature program, that's not dropping until February 7th. So you all should discuss like how you want to handle that. If you guys want to plan to get together quickly after the 7th, just to review the signature and turnaround funds and any implications that has for the budget. Because again, we don't know if, what you get may be less than what you request. And so if you have positions that, you're depending on the full amount of your request in order to, have those positions, then that may lead to, some additional changes beyond what you guys discussed on the 5th, if that makes any sense. So that's something I think that you guys should probably discuss, as far as
One additional meeting.
or just some contingency plans, right? Like if you get exactly what you asked for, then, maybe y'all don't have to get together again. If you get less than you asked for or more than you asked for,
we get more than we asked for, we're going to shout.
Right. But, then that would be a different conversation, than what you guys are having right now. So,
Okay.
just thinking about how you want to handle that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
So the reason why I was asking the question, I wanted to know if there was an opportunity. Like we've had some discussion, but as I go back and play with some options to see, hey, if we do this, then we have this amount, but if we do this, then we have that amount. I want to be able to provide you all with some clear options. Like I don't want to say, hey, it's this way and this is it. That's not my role, and that's not the role of me at the GOTeam. It's for me to be able to provide us with some things to talk about and some options, and then for us to be able to play with it. And so at our next meeting, our February 5th meeting, is when I will have some of those things based on the conversations that we've had today. And the thoughts, I can hear what you're saying about importance based on our strategic priorities, but also in just your thoughts about, hey, no, we need to keep this discrete. We need to make sure that we're addressing literacy. We need to make sure we're addressing math. STEM is still our priority. We still want to have STEM. Teachers are a priority, and making sure our teachers are high quality, but yet and still make sure that teachers have some support. And so let's think about that as we continue to staff. So those are the things I heard. Is there anything else that I missed? Okay. Well, based on the feedback from Ms. Tullis, Ms. Tucker, it seems like we may want to have a potential meeting that happens between our February 5th and our March 5th meeting. That's if we don't get the signature programming funds that we're requesting. So I will say, I want to be clear about the funds I'm requesting for signature programming. I'm requesting the STEM coach, 202, the STEM teacher, the dues and fees, the stipends and the materials and supplies. So that's what I'm requesting. Do you feel like I should request anything? Let me go back to that. Is there anything else that you feel like I need to be requesting? Because we won't get a chance to have any of that kind of feedback before. Okay.
So
So
once
that's
we
what I'm
find out,
submitting. Huh,
so
go
once we
ahead.
find out, we may need to have a meeting in between. So
Yes.
once we get that information, we can come up with some dates and we can kind of vote on it and we can meet in between that
Yes.
time.
So that was my question. Do you want to make the dates now, or do we want to we want to wait and see what happens and make a date?
So if we make the date, do we absolutely have to have that meeting? No, it's a just in case.
Yes.
Okay, so let's make it now, as a tentative date. Thank you, Miss Judy. As a tentative date, Wednesday seems to be our good days. So in between February 5th and March 5th, we have the 12th, the 19th. I'm not available on the 26th. So the 12th and the 19th.
The 19th is the week of the break in
It's the week
February.
of the break. So it would have to be the 12th. Is that a good tentative date? And Miss Judy said she can only do the 12th as well.
Yes.
What say ye? I heard Miss
Yes.
Herbert say that was a good date. Miss Judy also.
I'm checking. Give me
And
one
that's
second.
just tentative, y'all. We don't know yet. Miss Alma, she said she could.
Lumumba, I would be okay.
Okay. What about you, Miss Powell?
I'm fine.
Okay. Okay, so
Oh yeah, the 12th is fine. I'm sorry. I had to look at my calendar.
no problem at all. Okay, so we will put on the calendar tentatively
Yes. Like a tentative
February
hold. Yeah.
12th, 5 o'clock, still good for everybody. Yes. And we will find that out on the 5th if we absolutely need to meet on the 12th. So we will find out.
Well, it'll probably be the 7th because they're not going to drop the money until the 7th is what is my understanding.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
Dr. McIntyre will have to let us know if we are
Right.
meeting on the 12th.
Mhm.
Understood.
Yes.
Got you. Okay. Not a problem. Dr. McIntyre, is that it for your part?
Let's see. No.
Oh,
I'm
now
going
we
on
are
to the
moving.
next thing.
Hold on 1 second. We are now moving to our information items. We have our principal's report. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I want to talk about all this good news. Okay, so this is our CCRPI results. And so I want to first say that I was not there last year for the 2024 GMAS. However, that does not make me any less proud to be attached to FL Stanton and the progress that was made. This some incredible work was done last year, and so I'm proud to be connected. So these are the results. Content mastery was a 39.5. It was and you can see the breakdown in English language arts, math, and science, and then you can see progress. Now, progress, we did go down some in progress, but still in the 90s. I'm going to go over this generally, and then I'll click on the individual one so you can see some of the progress that was made. Closing the gaps, 100%. So we met targets around being able to close the gaps between us and the state in this area. And then readiness, which was the at or above grade level reading. So this is really Lexile scores, student attendance, and beyond the core. So student attendance down, it's not quite at 50%, but do know that we were in another location. And so we got what we got, but now we're home. And so we are on a trajectory now to have even better student attendance. Still not where we want it to be, but much better attendance because we're home. So that is something to note. I want to pause for just a moment and let me, okay, let's see. TCRBI. Okay. So, here we go. Content mastery. So this is what makes up content mastery. I wanted us to be able to see this. So you see, we went up 10 points in English language arts, up 22 points in science. So Ms. Tucker, when you were talking earlier about it's low, it is low, but we're making progress. And so if we're going to say that some of the work that we're doing around signature programming and focusing on STEM is supporting that, that's the kind of data we have to show for that. So even though it's not high, the growth is tremendous. And so when you look at, flags and how we've met, this is, that's how it breaks down for all students. So that's, and this is available on the state website. I want to be able to say that. Okay, progress. Progress, we did go down, and that's because we went down in English language arts and math. And this is just how we are our district and our state score. So how we are making progress in each of those content areas. Closing the gaps, which is the thing that we had 100% in. So this is the flags. And so essentially for a summary of our flags in English language arts and science is where we were hitting the target. So closing the gaps is about the student groups and the improvement that they make in based on the targets that are set. Okay. And then the last, which was readiness. I want you to be able to see specifically. So while we talked about student attendance being down, we weren't at home. We are on track for student attendance to be up. Beyond the core for us really is about access and scheduling. So making sure that we schedule all of our kids to have access to content that is beyond the core. So those PE and music and art, which is the reason why we can't get rid of those specials because that's the beyond the core piece. And then that at or above grade level in reading, those are the improvement in Lexile scores. So going up 10 plus points in that. All right, so that was my share for that. And I am done until the announcements that come at the end.
All right, Ms. Herbert, uniform committee update. And then Ms. Coleman, cluster advisory update, which we will also contribute to because we went to the G3 summit.
Right now, with the timeline, we had 75 participants for the survey. So right now, it's just going back out to the students, and I will have those results next meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Herbert. Ms. Coleman?
I did not make the last cluster meeting. It was the day after our meeting, I think. I'm not sure. I remember I emailed you about it and I don't know how I missed it. So my apologies on that. I don't have any updates.
Yes, ma'am. I know three of us attended the G3 summit. Lots of learning that happened. Some of the takeaways were making sure that we include students in our decisions that we're making, even at the elementary level, because that was one of my main questions. And Ms. Herbert and Ms. Powell, you can chime in and give one of your takeaways from G3. If you have one. Because I know we all kind of talked about it before, which that was one of the main things. We actually had a student from Best Academy who is the chair of his GOTeam at his school. And he talked about empowering students, and a lot of the parents that were on there talked about how even the elementary school students, they want to say so in certain things, or they want to be heard. They at least want to be heard, but also helping them to understand how things work in systems, that just because you want it, it has to go through a process. It might not happen while you're there, but it may be something that happens later. So getting them used to those things, because you also want them to participate in their GOTeams when they go to high school. You want them to be a part of that, and you want to start training them now. Anything you guys want to add? You good?
I actually do.
Okay.
I think we are in a unique opportunity right now around this uniform policy. And so we did identify students to be a part of this, of the committee. And so as we are taking the votes from the public at large, I will be interested to hear what the feedback is from those students that are a part of the committee, and the conversation that happens in those committee meetings with those students as well. I've been seeing around the school, as we've been focused on this strategic writing initiative, that there have been classrooms that's been their topic, has been around school uniforms. And so I think that's another opportunity that sometimes we can think about how we can engage curricular support to be able to draw feedback is also a good thing too.
Okay. Thank you for that feedback, Dr. McIntyre. Does anyone have any announcements?
I have some Camp Jenny updates.
Yes, ma'am.
So in a most exciting post-COVID turn of events, we had more than 220 staff applicants for Camp Jenny this year. We typically take about 110 teens on our staff for staff positions. So that's like gigantic, that we have so many kids in the 5-state region that are interested in participating and supporting this program. So our teen leaders and our adult leaders are in the process of making decisions for all of the staffing. Those decisions will go out to our community next week. And then when I come in February with our food drive items for the midwinter break, I will also have all of the posters. For those of you that are new to this, all of our teens, as part of their application process, make a 9x12 poster, like a card that we can hang up around the school to excite kids and encourage them. So I will have all of those posters when I come in February, so that those can get hung up and really drive kids' excitement and engagement in the spring. So that'll be great. And then the other piece that's of interest is that our programmer from camp has been working to put together a Camp Jenny committee, which will include our camp committee members, some of our year-round team members, and will also include some staff members from FL Stanton. So that this will not just be a program that we are presenting, but actually a program that you have a say in helping to grow.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Judy.
Doctor,
Sure.
I have some announcements. So we are going to be tasked with having parents to complete the Georgia School Climate Survey. So just a FYI for you that we will be sending that information out to all parents. And we are trying to get a good percentage, anywhere from 50 to 70% of our parents to be able to respond about how they feel about our school climate. So this year, the survey has changed a little. It's supposed to be so that more actionable steps can be taken from that survey. So we've had staff complete it, we've had teachers complete, and so we've had students complete third, fourth, and fifth grade. And so now we are making sure that our parents complete as well. And then I also wanted to, I can't remember if I talked about it last time or not, safe routes to school. So did I talk about that before? No. So the city of Atlanta has looked at all of the school zones across the city, and they rated them to see which school zones in the routes to school were the most dangerous. And so FL Stanton ranked in the top 6 for most dangerous routes to school, which is understandable because of the street, the park, all of that. And so because of that, they want to be able to increase safety in the route to school for students that ride their bikes and or walk. And so, we've had some challenges around lighting and, making sure we have a consistent crossing guard, but making sure we have staff to support students even as they cross the street, getting up the hill and all of that. And on that backside where we don't have anyone. So just looking at, they're going to be doing an audit of the route. They're going to be talking to staff and parents. And so actually that February 12th date that we were just talking about for the GOTeam meeting is actually the kickoff meeting that the city will have with parents and community. So they want to have a virtual kickoff and then invite parents to be able to kind of have a listening session with them to figure out what the needs are for our community. So we'll be inviting the community for that meeting. It'll be a hybrid, so there'll be people in the building and online. We were also supposed to be having an APTT meeting. And so we are going to be looking at whether or not and how we reschedule that. And that essentially is a meeting where our students are going to be leading some conferences, data conferences with their parents to share their data and their progress towards meeting some goals that they've identified. So that each student has worked with their teacher to create some goals around math and reading, and for some grade level science and attendance and behavior. And so they're going to share those goals with their families, and we're going to have some food as well for those sessions. So it's going to be an opportunity for us to fellowship and set some goals and figure out how we're going to meet those goals. So we're excited about that, but that's coming up this month. Hopefully it doesn't get pressed to February. Thank you. And a flyer appears. So that's our plan for January 28th. And I think that's all we have, unless Miss Batiste puts up another flyer that I'm not remembering. I'll give her a moment just in case there's another flyer that I forgot. Okay, that's all I got, Miss Tucker.
Thank you so much, Dr. McIntyre. We have reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
I second.
All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Aye, Jessica Tucker.
Tiffany Coleman.
I
Aye,
Ashley
Alma
Herbert.
Hall.
I see all raised hands.
We
Ms. Powell,
can't hear you.
I see all raised hands. Ms. Powell. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain.
Miss Tucker, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. I
I
apologize.
can't hear you.
You can't hear me anymore. Hold on.
You hear you.
Ms. Powell, can you hear me now? I'll text you, Ms. Powell, with the with the adjournment numbers. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys so much for coming.